Welcome back, Jadu and Jonah here, the Banking Bros at the Cash Compound for part 2 of Pay Yourself First.
That's right.
Jonah, recap what we have just gone over. We are recording them back to back, so it's still fresh on our mind if anyone missed. No, it's okay. If anyone missed the first episode, and they're seeing this one, though, because it pops up somewhere, related video, they got lost in their binging. What did we just talk about?
Yeah, so if you did not watch or listen to Pay Yourself First, Part 1, what we covered is Robert Kiyosaki. That is the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, his most popular book. He has a Rich Dad series, lots and lots of books. When he talks about the cash flow quadrant, whether you're employed or self-employed, trying to move over into a business owner, or the I, which stands for investments. So I was trying to relate that to an investor. There we go. Yeah. Forgot the word for a second. But we talked about his cash flow quadrant specifically, and we talked about his other chart where he talks about assets and liabilities and how the poor, the middle class, and the rich spend those assets and liabilities. The reason we did that is because on the topic of Pay Yourself First, we believe that a lot of people try their best to pay themselves first, but we think they're putting the money in the wrong places. You mentioned last episode that when you first heard about Pay Yourself First, you assumed that that meant put money into investment vehicles.
Yeah, long-term qualified plans.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mentioned last episode that when I heard Pay Myself First, I assumed that that meant put money into savings vehicles, conventional savings vehicles at banks like CDs or high-yield savings accounts or money markets or whatever. And we think that a lot of people might think the same way that we did. It's not like we had any financial specific training coming up and where to put it, when to put it there. It's not like we had any of that.
Yeah.
They don't teach it in school. So
that brings me to another point. It's not taught in school, of course, right? I think schools more and more are getting people slightly more financial savvy than they were in our generation.
They have to.
Yeah, because people are in trouble. All the teachers are in trouble. The pension plans are in trouble. And so everyone goes, there is a category of education missing from school, and it's finances, like it's missing. And I think a lot of folks prior to the big booms of the 20th century, big government, huge government, economic plans going crazy, post-World War II, all this growth, lots of people were actually way more savvy with financial churn. They understood where to put money a little bit more.
So.
At the same time, they didn't have to use as much because they could probably barter in a local environment better. But they understood some things, and they watched some banks fail, and they realized there's other places to put money. Hello, insurance. It's one of the things we talk about here on this channel. But what's interesting to me, Jonah, is how much people have a financial lack of education, and then they say, man, they should teach it in schools. And we're like, you're in the right place. School isn't where you get it. Like, there are books, there are podcasts like ours, and of course, we hope that you stick around to learn something. This is where you should be learning.
That's right.
There's information overload. Robert Kiyosaki also said that we went into the information age. We were previously in the industrial age, and then we were in the, what was after industrial? Industrial is like trains, planes, and automobiles.
Yeah.
And then it goes into
it went to information right after industrial.
Oh, maybe it is.
Quite honest.
Okay. So anyway, he says when the Berlin Wall came down, which of course I was born on one side and you were born on the other side, kind of. When the wall came down, that was the kickoff, 1989-ish, of the information age.
There you go.
So you're in the right place, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go ahead and blame school. Blame yourself if now you know where to get the information and you don't continue to learn. You don't continue your education. School is one place, education's everywhere.
There you go. So if you missed our first part of Pay Yourself First, we'll put a link in the description for you so you can go back and watch that and get caught up on the conversation. Then come back to this video, of course, so we can jump into part number 2.
Jonah, there are lots of conversations we get into with people who teach and preach, or at least think similarly to us.
That's right.
The Nelson Nash Institute is one of those places. We are practitioners. That's a big P. That is the kind of code for a member. It's a practitioner of the Nelson Nash Institute, and there are monthly conversations that we at least do in Zooms.
That's right.
Okay, when we are on 2 or 3 Zooms ago, summer of 2024, there was a very interesting leadership keynote that got expressed, and it was one of the practitioners who's been in business for 20 years, helping people understand how to save and spend money at the exact same time.
Okay.
And they mentioned helping people locate their inefficient dollars.
I like that.
There's a lot of people out there who think they're paying themselves first, and he says, let's take a look
At where you're putting the money.
where you're putting the money.
There's also another
Yeah.
infinite banking practitioner that I like a lot, and he talks about how much or what percentage of your money are you paying yourself first with.
Okay.
Right? It's what percent, the savings rate in America is what he talks about, right? The savings rate in America is really, really low. A lot of times when there are bad years,
Economic downturn.
right, it increases just a little bit, but it's not very high at all. Meaning, if I think right now it's like less than 5%, if I'm not mistaken.
Whoever's counting, I'm sure it's always less than 5% right now.
Right, but
Yeah,
basically
everywhere.
what that means is when the average American makes $100, they're only going to pay themselves first with under $5.
And if you're paying yourself first, $5 in one of the things we're going to compare here shortly, and that's where you put it, how in the world are you going to make it? That's
Right.
what Nelson says in this book, Becoming Your Own Banker. If you take 5% of every dollar and you put it in a place that averages a return, has poor tax treatment, even though it does have some special, poor tax treatment because it's probably tax deferred. Number two, you cannot use it without penalties for a long time, and inflation's taken that value down. How in the world is that $5 going to be able to save your butt when you're old and your knees hurt when it's now worth 2 cents?
There you go. Let's do a little comparison, shall we?
Let's get into it. We have created a handout for you, and I'm sure we'll link to that underneath this video. Follow us on YouTube, and if you're watching us somewhere out there, you're going to be able to click in the description, and we'll put notes to that right here. And if not, we'll try to help you visualize it, okay? So we created this handout. We do a lot of things in person. We hand this out when we're live in Living Color with people, and it's helping people understand. The big comparison here is that we've got features. We've got features of whole life insurance and features of the things most people say they're using to pay themselves first.
There
Jonah,
you go.
first off, list off some of those things. What does everyone say? No, I do pay myself first. Where are they putting their money?
They put it in conventional savings accounts. So that is high yield savings accounts, if you will. That's CDs. They're going to put it in investment vehicles. Some investment vehicles are targeted for what they are used for. So you've got the very popular investment vehicles of retirement. So those are going to be your 401ks, your 503bs, your IRAs, both traditional and Roth. There's other investment vehicles that are geared toward education. So that's going to be your 529s. Now that one's kind of a hybrid because until you get to a certain dollar amount or make a few elections, it can act like savings for a while.
So,
And then it goes into investment.
529 is basically now an educational Roth. They've changed it.
They've changed it, right? But
Yeah.
they've done that with almost anything that the government touches.
They'll change.
They've tried to adjust and change it to where it's like, oh, it could be saving. You can put money into a health savings account, HSA,
Right.
and then invest it. They should change the name then. Right?
Right,
HSA,
sure.
Health Savings Account. FSA, Flexible Savings Account, named by the tax code, the IRC, Internal Revenue Code, IRS. And then they're like, oh, but yeah, you can invest some too. They're pulling a lot of these strings, but those are some of the places.
They have to.
A lot of people pay yourself first. So, not a lot. I would say not a lot of people, but a significant amount of people are going to pay themselves first by putting money in real estate. And
Well, I think a lot more people are realizing they need to.
Yep.
They have flexibility there, and they also have better tax treatment.
Yep.
They also, of course, could have, depending on how you do it, real estate means a lot of different things, cash flow. They could have cash flow.
Yep. And the last one that I can think of is like mutual funds.
Yeah, of course.
We're going to try that. There's a very popular radio personality. Well, I guess now he's just a personality. Very popular guy out there.
He's an influencer. That's what he is now. He used to be a radio. You've said that for a long time, but yeah, he used to be a radio host.
Yeah.
He is now an influencer.
Almost
Maybe we are
everybody's
too.
an influencer, though. I saw
Yeah.
President Trump making a TikTok video with Aiden Ross the other day. So,
I've heard that name. Who's that?
and a Twitch streamer, an influencer. So I saw it.
I hate
He did
when
one of these,
Yes.
and then
Oh, I
told
hate it.
everybody to vote for him. I'm like, oh, he's an influencer.
Yeah, I hate those so much because it's not policy.
It seems like he should, tell us what he's for and against and things, but that's just my
And
2 cents.
he's would happily tell us a lot more than the other side currently.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, the other side is currently in power, so it's like you can tell what they're about, I guess. But they will not talk about it because they're just not taking the interviews, right?
Yeah,
it's very interesting. So at the same time, they're in power, so I guess you can figure it out yourself. Getting back to you. Ladies and gentlemen, here we're talking and walking through code cracking cash flow. We're trying to help you discover for yourself, have an educational moment. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. Where should you be putting your dollars? Are they in efficient places? So for a second, I want to explore that, at least in the way I talk, the whole efficient thing. Are you putting money in places that are efficient for you? Are they doing the things you want them to do? Because money should flow. Money should flow and get you the things that you really want. It should be buying you time, buying you options, buying you choices, that type of thing. You need to trade the money for time and money and other money or options or choices and things like that. And I think many of us,
That's a great shout out to that.
many people are actually putting their dollars in super inefficient places. So here's the question, Jonah. Take a guess out there and just ballpark it. The people that we talk to week, we're always on the phone doing free consultations about cash for people.
Yes.
Where do most of the people that you've talked to recently, we record all the time, where do they have their money sitting?
You know what? I'm not exactly sure if I know. I would venture to believe that they have it sitting in savings accounts, though. That's traditional. Qualified plans. Qualified plans. I apologize. I just.
And the reason it's tough to think about it for just 1 second is because they don't know how much is in there. They don't monitor it. They don't control it. They don't make it go up or down. They just automatically put it there.
Qualified
because
retirement vehicles.
Nowadays your job will sign you up for it, and if you don't pay attention, you're in. And you'd have to opt out. You've got money going in there, and plenty of people who work for large corporations like, well, I'm getting some free money too.
That's right.
Up to 6, up to 3, up to 5%. They match it, so I'm going to put it there.
Yep.
So I think that's where people put their money. They have it in there, and they believe that's paying themselves first. Do you believe that those qualified plans and pay yourself first go together?
I personally do not. I think a lot of people do. I personally don't.
Compare right here then,
right?
Before we get into what if.
And the reason I say that, right, I also don't think, and now again, I'm with you that if you don't know any better options, then you're just doing what's best for you. But when someone says pay yourself first, it's like the meme that I mentioned in the last episode, right? Stop putting money in savings if you're just going to transfer it back. It's that idea. I pay myself first. I put 5% of my check in the savings account. Okay, then you just spent it all on Christmas presents. Like, how did that help you, right? It's the same deal. It's the same idea with, I pay myself first because part of my check every single time I get it goes into the 401k. Okay, and last quarter the 401k lost 10%. Like, how does this help you? Now, again, a lot of people don't pay attention to the government-sponsored plans, so they don't even know that it dropped. But a lot of people do exactly what I'm talking about with the savings vehicles, right? They put it in there, and they're like, I did so much progress. 3 months, I saved up the money. And then you spent it. What did 3 months at Bank of America's savings account do for you?
I mean, calm down. That's what I used to do.
Well, I'm saying that's what I used to do too, but that's why I'm kind of calling it out in the episode. Like, actually, now that I've been a little bit more educated, I don't actually think that that's pay yourself first. They do not mesh that idea of, I literally put money in the savings account and then spend it every 6 months. That idea of pay yourself first doesn't mesh.
Okay, so here's what I think that we might have to discover verbally for the first time together. Because if that is not, I'm with you. I'm just going if that is not pay yourself first, and really what that is just save until you need it, right? It's just save until Christmas. We're pretty sure it's coming in December this year.
I think it's on the 25th.
Then that's not paying yourself. So let's jump back into our ideal asset, whole life insurance, mutual company, paying dividends. We're saving money there. At least that's what we're telling people by paying the premiums. So why is it different?
Yeah, well, it's kind of in what we like to describe about what infinite banking is, what whole life insurance can do with the right style of policy. We call our method, right, how we teach people, the save and spend system. Mm-hmm. And the reason that that's really, really important is because the money saved is not the money spent.
Okay.
They are separated, and that makes a humongous distinction.
I think
Distinction.
you're going to have to jump into it then.
Right?
Most
It's
people
almost
are
like-
out here, or they listen to us for the first time, and they're like, what do you mean?
Yep.
I'm spending my money still.
Imagine if you have a savings account at the local bank that's got $1 million in it.
Yep.
And it kicks off interest. Let's call it a high yield savings account.
Okay.
It kicks off interest every single month. And I know normally banks are going to pay that annually, but let's pretend they're going to give it to you monthly, 5% or something like that. So you're going to
Great.
make $500 a month, let's call it.
Okay.
And what you do is you live off, I know that's not enough money, but let's say you live off the $500 a month. And so every time you make money in your job, your income, you just add to the million. Add to the million, add to the million, add to the million. And so what happens is your 500 turns to 525, then 550, then 600, then 650. So that would be an example of saving and spending. But in my opinion, that would be an example of paying yourself first, even.
Okay,
Because now
that's
I'm
what I was
not
asking.
getting
Yep.
rid of the money. Like
Yep.
the money's there with me.
The money is making money.
I'm living
spending-
off of the money that the money's making. Right.
I'm spending the money that the money makes.
That's right.
Let's take a look at our chart here, and let's go into that very first top line then. Across our grid, we've got several qualifications, considerations, and categories down the left-hand side. The columns across the top, we got whole life insurance and a lot of things that you people are using and they're saying might be where their money is sitting. And they, in a lot of cases, might say, oh, that is where I pay myself first. The first category in our rows is principal protection. That's kind of what you were just talking about.
That's a big deal.
Principal protection. So if you've got dollars that are guaranteed to be there next round,
Yep.
next month, next time you need to spend money.
A lot of people
start there.
A lot of people don't put enough weight on this. This is, to me, one of the biggest considerations to consider. And I don't think a lot of people put enough weight on it. I'll break it down for you as easy as I can put it. If you place $100 in that vehicle, in that platform, in that program, in that account, are you guaranteed to come back to at least $100?
I think it's a great thing for people to talk about. I think a lot of business owners don't have to get that question asked of them, but a lot of consumers, Rich Dad, Poor Dad's Kiyosaki chart would say, poor people, we need to ask them that.
Yep.
If you put the money there, middle class people need to be challenged on it too. Will it be there next time?
Right.
And if it's not possibly not going to be there, what is the upside potential, tax implications? How long do you have to wait if it might not even be there? But I
right.
know it's a huge deal for you.
It's like the biggest deal for me. As you can see on our chart, as we highlight CDs and money markets and real estate and mutual funds and 401ks and 403bs and IRAs and 457s and stocks and Roths and 529s, there's a no across the line item for there. And so I'm agreeing that that's not the only thing you should consider.
Yeah.
But if one of them is a yes, like the CDs and the money markets, you can come back to that money. The bank's not going to, again, depending on what bank you have, right? It's kind of a maybe, because if you used Silicon Valley Bank, you lost that CD. But
There was like 3 banks in 2023.
right, but you see what I'm saying? If you can put your $100 there, and they are not going to guarantee you for a second that the $100 is going to be there, then I need to see the upside potential. And I need it broken down as easy as you can break it down, and I better understand it, because I'm not giving you $100. Would you give me $100? And I'm like, cross your fingers. See you tomorrow.
Another thing we've said once or twice before, I think maybe for the first times this summer's episodes of podcast, that risk is not the potential of money rising. Risk is the potential of money getting lost.
Yep.
That's what risk is about. So when you talk about, hey, you have to put stuff at risk, or you have to get money to make money and all that, you just pay attention for a second. Risk doesn't mean you're getting anything.
Yep.
It means what's the probability of principal protection went away.
There you go.
Okay, so secondly, dividends, penalty-free withdrawals before 59. Let's talk about that one. Penalty-free withdrawals before 59.
Yeah, that's going to apply to a lot of those government-sponsored plans.
Yeah, we need to think about that.
So here's what happens. In the government-sponsored plans, a lot of times, because the government has touched it, they've enticed the American to put the money there because they're going to defer taxes. Right? That's kind of the biggest enticement for a lot of people. They're going to say, hey, you put the money in this plan or program, we won't charge you any taxes until later. Right?
Yeah.
they've tricked us pretty good with that.
A lot of people. It's amazing to me when I talk to large groups, especially online, and do some of our live chats, how many people don't know that.
Yeah, but I don't know how they don't know that. I mean, that's the whole drawing piece.
Because they went to regular school.
Yeah, it's crazy. But
And
the thing
they
about
studied
I always like to relate it to like
arts and
regular
history.
purchases. Would you go into Best Buy, buy the new TV, and allow Best Buy to say, "No, you don't have to pay taxes on it now. We'll get you later"? Like, you wouldn't even do it. You'd be like, "That's dumb. I'll just pay the taxes now."
What's the TV tax currently?
Yeah.
Let me pay it. I'll need y'all to surprise me in the
I
middle
don't
of my
want
show
you to
later.
surprise at 70. What if I don't have money at 59.5? At 65?
When I stop working.
Yeah. Like,
why do you
that
think
doesn't
you'd
make
have
any
money?
sense.
Right.
Like, it's the craziest wool over your eyes situation ever.
Well, and here's the answer most people give, which is, this is the part that's amazing to me. Oh, but I got a match. That's their answer.
It's wild. Anyway, I'll get into that in a second. But penalty-free withdrawals before 50.5 are going to apply to those plans. So here's what happened. The government said, put the money here and we will push the taxes away. We'll push the taxes away. We won't lock the tax rate in so you know what they are coming down the road. We'll just be able to push them, and if we increase it, we increase it. Oh no, what happened? But the reason that they make you start to withdraw the money at 59.5 is so that you have to then start paying taxes on the money, because that's the date, right? There's literally they have a thing in most qualified plans that are called minimum distributions.
Required minimum
distributions. The word required is important. That means they're going to make you do it, and the reason they make you do it is because you've pushed away the taxes long enough. You have to pay them.
Right.
And so anyway, that's applies to the things that the government can touch. I particularly, after learning, I did not start here, but after learning, I try to put as little or none of my money into anything the government can touch.
Now, here's another thing that I mentioned.
They were making TikToks last week. I saw it.
Yeah, I seen it. Okay, so let's go on to this next row here, tax-free withdrawals, and let's talk about using the money at some point and understanding what those implications are going to be. You hit on it, of course, but what I think folks are not quite understanding is how vast and broad and how steep taxes are even today. So when they go to pull dollars later, they're not realizing how much of it is going to the government. It's not the rate, but the volume, right? Is kind of what I'm saying. What are your thoughts on that? Real estate has so many perks to it because if you're putting money there, there's things, depreciation to write off. There's 1031 exchanges to be able to do because taxes are a problem, bro.
Yeah. It's a interesting and also weird rule, in my opinion. So here's what I mean. If you had to come up with your own special plan and program, right? It's going to be your plan and program. People, you work for the government, people are going to be allowed to put money in there. Would you come up with this rule? Meaning tax-free withdrawals. Hey, if you put the money in here, we're going to let you not pay taxes for a while. Oh, and if you take the money out early, we're going to tax you or we're not going to tax. Like, it doesn't seem to me like that was a rule that I would come up with. Like, it seems like you'd be allowed to withdraw the money that you put into the plan if you didn't want it in the program anymore. But they penalize you for doing that. Some of the accounts, just depending on which ones they are,
there's
tax you early,
or and some of them do have
it's a weird
first in, first out, depending on what you got going on. So they're not going to be taxed on your contribution. Potentially,
but you've got to look at each individual one and where you're putting the money and figure out the rules to it.
Most people have no clue,
right? And what I'm saying is, it's a weird rule to me in my head. Like, I would have never thought of that. Like, you guys had a lot of time and a lot of people to think of that one. Like that, you shouldn't have done that.
Sure,
in my opinion. Anyway,
okay. How about the next one? Guaranteed interest.
So that's kind of back to the principal protection we talked about, right?
Yeah, well,
so once you have your principal protected, I want to give you $100 and I want to be certain that when I come back, there's $100 there. The second thing that I'd ask is, well, now we want growth, right? When I come back, I want 101, 110, 200. That's why I'd put it there.
At least enough to keep up with inflation or to offset what might happen in taxes if I'm going to be taxed on it. I think that's very important. And interestingly enough, when you look across our particular chart and common places that we're considering putting our money in a pay ourselves first environment the same to 100% principal protection and guaranteed interest. The same to CD money markets and whole life insurance.
Yep. It's
Now, once again, real estate is a very big anomaly because it means 1,000 different things.
Right.
And so most people who are probably watching us thinking about that realize that and understand that. We do not poo-poo on real estate as a vehicle for investments, but we are talking about paying ourselves first and not investments.
Right.
So there's going to be appreciation. There are tax considerations that are strong for real estate use. We do real estate things as well, but it's not where I put my money first.
I think that if people took this chart that we're showing them and took these 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 categories from the left side of the screen and evaluated everywhere they put money with these parameters, I think that people would not put anywhere close to the money that they put in some of these vehicles. They'd stop doing it. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, once again, it wouldn't be the volume that they put there. That's really what it is for me, because I think there's plenty of people for two reasons.
I can get behind
volume of what you're putting in those in these environments and which ones you'd like to use or you think are best for you, and two, actually time. Because there are averages. Averages are not actual, and we have videos on that for sure, but there's also time. And when you started doing this process of infinite banking, time was on your side in a way that lots of people we speak with and are listening to us probably don't think about, because that was a factor. I was 32 when I first heard of infinite banking as the save part of my save and spend system, and you were 24. Way different than a person who's 42 or older. Flip those numbers around and they start thinking differently.
No, I agree. I'm just saying that it's almost like we should put this chart up on the Google search engines and pay money to get it the number one thing. Before you put money anywhere, evaluate it through these categories.
Sure, there's going to be, the majority of the population needs to consider this, no question. But I think there are some people out there who forget, like us from time to time, that you're not a representative of everyone. And I'm not a representative of everyone. Where I live, what I do for work, do I work a job or am I self-employed? Am I 42 or 24? All are factors. And I think people need to, like we put on the top leftmost column of our chart, consider it. They need to think about it. And then they need to know all the features of the ideal asset, whole life insurance, so we can potentially store money there. Not invest, not risk, not get any smarter, work harder, store money there because of all the asset features that we're talking about.
It's the proper way, proper place to pay yourself first because of all of the benefits that it offers. There are benefits that come with a lot of these other vehicles that we're talking about, but they're spotty, right? They're picky and choosy. It's not like you're going to get them all. You're going to get one or two. Now, people are going to say, I love CDs and money markets because I'm guaranteed that the money's going to be there. But they don't put... But the problem is you now don't get any liquidity. Like, what if you get a 5-year CD because they're going to give you the best rate over at Navy Federal Credit Union, at USAA, at Bank of America, and then you have an emergency 1 year in. That's right. It's like you got to pick and choose. Well, now I'm guaranteed to have my money there. It's guaranteed to grow. I'm going to guaranteed to come back and get it. But what if I need it 1 year into my 5 years? You got to weigh that, right? So all of a sudden, people are not going to put as much of their money into that planner program because I can't do that. I can't eliminate all that liquidity from my life. I have to have the ability to make an emergency use, right? So all of a sudden, that's very awesome, but I can't put all my money in there. So that's not really the spot I can pay myself first. I can just pay myself a little in that one, right? And then there's real estate, right? And all of a sudden, there's all these rules to real estate, right? If you want to buy a house so you can flip it, you either need to figure out how to use private money. Maybe you don't know that. Hard money. Maybe you don't know how to use that, or you got to go to the bank. Well, the bank's going to put all these stipulations and rules on you that all of a sudden you don't qualify for.
Or you need to have a certain amount of money you feel you don't have enough to be liquid and get involved. You need 5 figures, 6 figures to be involved in real estate. You got to pick and choose. It's like whatever vehicle that you like to use to pay yourself first, it's going to have 1 or 2 or 3 very good quality attributes about it, but it's not going to have all 10.
And so, what we're trying to communicate to you here this afternoon in our podcast episode is we really think the ideal asset is an infinite banking policy, a whole life insurance, not indexed, a whole life insurance policy from a mutual company that pays dividends, because you're going to get all the benefits. If you could truly describe the best place you could think of, you got to use real attributes. The best place you could think of to put your money, you'd be describing whole life insurance. You'd say, I want it to be there. I don't want any chance for it to go down. I want it guaranteed to grow. If I need access, I need to come back and use some. I don't want to have to worry about taxes. Right?
I want it to be passive. I want it to be private.
Yeah, you're describing whole life insurance. Yeah. If you really thought about where you wanted to put money. If you really thought about where you wanted to put money, you're not describing probably where you're putting it right now.
Right. Just describe. So once again, in the chat link below, down there in the description, wherever you're looking, hopefully you can find access to this sheet and do some considerations yourself. That was part 2. We've got lots of follow-up we'd love for you to be a part of. And someone who has recently joined the ranks of subscribers on YouTube is Chef Tatum. Chef Tatum is out there, our fan follower of the week. Appreciate you being around. I believe this is a friend of ours on our live experiences that we do on social media.
Oh, cool.
I'm often going out there, ladies and gents, and I'm just dodging bullets and teaching and preaching to the right folks.
His first name is Chef, or he's actually a chef? What you got?
He's looking down in this profile pic, and I think he's chopping up some cucumbers.
Oh, well, then I'm going to go with he is actually a chef.
Well,
you know what? I
it
think
says
his YouTube bio says that he is a chef.
I see the word kitchen.
So I like it.
I think he's literally looking down and getting some gumbo jambalaya right now.
I like it. Well, Chef Tatum, we really appreciate the subscribe there. I'm definitely going to go watch your apple smoothie video. Thanks for subscribing to our stuff. I like apple smoothies.
Oh,
We're going to do it.
For sure.
But if you've got any questions about infinite banking, about paying yourself first, about where to put the money or where you currently put the money, leave them in the comments, and we'll come back to you. We'll answer them. We'll give you a shout out if we see you on our social stuff again, and we appreciate you.
To the banking bro, said we couldn't make it, 3 settled, this the life we chose. Gave a lot of game, we never got a lot of things. Bow your head and say the prayer, we taught you how to be the bank.
All right, that was part 2 of PYF, our Pay Yourself First series. Part 1, we talked all about Robert Kiyosaki and what he would describe the poor, middle class, or rich and where they're going to place the money. In part 2, we talked about the ideal asset and compared it to all of the other places that you're probably familiar with and where you place the money now. So what you should do is take a look in the description of this video, because we put some helpful links. We'll put the chart that we went over, we'll put some other helpful links to a few other videos, and most importantly, we'll put the link to our calendar system. So if you need to have a consultation completely free with myself or with Jeremiah, you can click that link and you can do so. We'll see you next time.